Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, this week's lesson is once again about British food. And this remains one of those topics which is a little bit strange. Many of you have told me that you're rather surprised about the way in which British people treat food. And it's true that we do have some very strange habits when it comes to looking after food. One of the strangest ones is the fact that British people are very comfortable having a sandwich sitting in the cemetery with a cup of coffee. In fact, some of our older cemeteries even have cafeterias in them so that you can relax, have a sandwich and a cup of tea while you're looking at some old graves. For those of you who visited central London, Brompton Cemetery is on the map. And as you walk into this tourist cemetery, there's a cafe, which might seem a little bit odd. Now, I've mentioned this before about British people and food. I think part of the problem is that we don't really have respect for food. Many of you grow up thinking about your mother's favorite recipe, or maybe you have recipes which have been passed down from generation to generation. Well, as far as I'm concerned, being British, I've never seen that here, nor have I heard about that. If you ask me what my mother liked to eat or cook, I have no idea. I can't honestly say that her food was different from anyone else's, but of course, she cared very much. I think part of the problem is that in the old days, Britain was very industrial. The people were trained to work and nothing else, only work. That left little time for preparing food, and many people lived in some kind of poverty, which meant that they couldn't really stop to eat properly. They just had to be working. These days, the situation, well, it's changed a bit because there's more money around, but we don't have a social structure. Families don't stay together, and I'm quite sure that many of them no longer eat together. Eating together and sharing food is indeed a spiritual principle, and in some cultures of the world, the first thing you're asked is, "Come, eat with me." Can you? Can you spare a few moments to eat with me? And they can be very persistent. I remember when I was living in the Arab world, you could be simply chatting to a friend. The next thing you know, you're taken away in a car and you're eating. Because eating alone there, well, it isn't really done, and it would seem rather sad. Hospitality is a big thing for many people in the world. And I think that in Britain, because we live such individual lives, that's been kind of lost now. Well, certainly we have some very strange ideas about food. And if you want to know more about that, you only have to think about, for example, pineapple on pizza, which would seem to be a little bit odd, at least according to Italians. But we didn't invent that. That came from Hawaii in America. Other habits that we have, well, eating in cemeteries is one, but also there's another, and that's where we choose to eat. Now, of course, there's many fast food restaurants and you can see many people eating there. But there is a story in today's news which isn't very nice. Now, I'm telling you about this in advance because this is in rather bad taste. So if you are eating at the moment, I think you should stop eating and maybe come back to this podcast later. Because it says here, and this is from the Daily Star of today, that Generation Z, that means people who are very young these days, in their early 20s, or perhaps maybe late teens, it says they love to eat while they're using the bathroom. It says here, a quarter of British people aged 18 to 24 enjoy eating while they are using the bathroom. Some of them say that they love to eat while they're actually using the toilet, and 10% of people even eat while they're taking a shower. It says here that those aged over 65 are least likely to have a nibble in the bathroom, according to a survey. A nibble is when you just take a little bit. It says here that the car was the most popular snacking spot across all age groups. And it says here that 7% of people even went to the wardrobe or the cupboard to eat so that they didn't have to eat in front of colleagues or family members. Someone here called Roxana D'Souza, a nutrition expert at a company called Dole Sunshine, I don't know what that is, they commissioned the survey. They said, we weren't expecting so many crazy eating locations. This highlights the need to eat in peace and at pace, with little time to prepare a snack. And apparently boredom was the top reason for British people to go to the fridge to eat, while boiled eggs, tuna sandwiches and sushi were considered the worst types of snacks to have on a train or bus, because of course you could easily upset other people because of the smell. Well, none of that surprises me because I think British people's relationship to food is a really weird one. What I've learned over the years is that taste doesn't come from your mouth, it comes from your memory. I honestly believe that even though the experts tell us that we taste things, I think it's because of the memory of the food that we've enjoyed on holiday or from our families. I think that is where we have taste. So if you don't have those memories, then of course you're not really going to have the taste. There's also the issue of our social structures here in the UK. If you spend most of your time eating alone, you're not really going to experience the joy that comes with eating with other people. Now, I have to say, when I was a young man here in the UK, I really didn't care about food. It wasn't a priority. There wasn't really a lot of joy in it. It was just eating. And then as I got older, like most British kids, the idea of eating with your family, well, it wasn't really so nice. It was something we kind of avoided. The culture was changing anyway. But I don't think British people here ever appreciated food as some kind of joyful, spiritual moment with family. I don't think that's ever been the case. because in the past, when we've had very strict religious governments, maybe 300 or 400 years ago, they were very quick to tell us that we only should have perhaps one color, nothing too exciting, maybe one bit of meat, potatoes, and a colored veg. Anything else might excite our emotions, and well, that wouldn't be very British. So there's a few things to think about there. So there's something historical, there's the way we live today, and our lack of family structure. In the past, I would happily just go to the local supermarket, grab something from the freezer, eat it to fill my belly, and if you asked me the next day, what did you eat last night? I wouldn't even remember. However, times have changed, and having lived in the Mediterranean and the Arab world, these days, food for me is a much bigger thing, and also something which I enjoy. I've discovered that good food and cooking, for example, Mediterranean recipes, can be done at a very low cost. It's very healthy. And when you eat with someone, like family, it makes it even better because you can experience the same things together. Another thing, of course, is that British people, well, we tend to lead very fast lives, at least when we're younger, especially in the London area. Although the further north you go, the quieter and slower it gets. Today's affirmation is I choose to learn English. And you can choose to do that in the same way as you can choose to take up cooking. You can choose to have a life that's slower than the life you have at the moment. You can choose to do anything you want. So there we are. That's today's clip. And I'm sorry if that part about where British people eat is upsetting. I found it really disturbing. But perhaps what's even more disturbing is that story ended up on the front page of one of our national newspapers. And I'm thinking, ooh, I don't think it should be there exactly. So it's very interesting, very interesting. And by the way, according to artificial intelligence, by the year 2054, it's saying that our meals will be replaced. We will no longer be eating fish and chips here in the UK, but we'll be eating insects. The University of York, and this is a story also from the Daily Star, on the same day, it says they've discovered options that seem radical and almost unbelievable thanks to artificial intelligence. It says here, the unusual food is said to replace home-cooked favorites such as meat and potatoes or fish and chips. Insect salads and laboratory-grown steaks will be on our plates by 2054. And a spokesperson for York University said, by 2054, British people will all have edible insects on their dinner plates. We may even see the introduction of 3D printed food. Ooh, I can't imagine that. It sounds horrible. And with that, I'm going to say, see you. Bye.